At the party celebrating the Porter Group's centenary, I unwittingly wore the bracelet that had belonged to Robert's ex-wife. His son, only 7 years old, pushed me down the stairs in front of all the guests and then poured a glass of champagne over me. From above, he stared at me with contempt as cold as his father's. His voice cut through the night air without mercy. "What kind of person do you think you are to wear something that belonged to my mother? Don't think you can replace her by trying to please me. One day, I'll kick you out of the Porter family." At that moment, I felt as if the last trace of warmth inside me had been blown away by the wind. I looked at the boy I had raised from birth, and suddenly it all made sense. I got up with difficulty, hurt and ashamed, but without showing any anger. I looked at him and said calmly, "You don't have to wait until you grow up. Tomorrow, I'm leaving." I limped upstairs, step by step, ignoring the stares that followed me, and went straight to my room, wanting only to change my clothes. That's when Simon ran towards me, his fists clenched, and tried to slap me. I instinctively protected my face and my wrist hit the stair railing. The bracelet snapped and fell to the floor, broken. It was my mother's favorite piece. Simon's eyes turned red with hatred. "You witch, how dare you break that?" I was silent for a few long seconds before sighing. "Simon, you're lying. This bracelet was a wedding gift from my grandmother." He looked surprised for a moment, but quickly returned to his usual arrogance. "So what? I said you couldn't. Wear it, so you couldn't." And he stormed out, as if he had won something. For the first time, I didn't run after him trying to explain as I usually did. When dinner was over and I returned to the old Porter house, I noticed the nanny hesitating. As if she wanted to tell me something, I ran to the bedroom and, from a distance, I could already smell the strong smell of blood. When I opened the door, I found my dog covered in wounds on the bed, with my photos on the floor, torn by a blade. Simon looked at me and, noticing my expression of pain, started laughing. "That's punishment for making me angry," he said sarcastically, before stepping on one of my photos and jumping away, satisfied with his cruelty. I can't understand why he hated me so much, even though he was so small. After my grandmother died, that little dog was all I had left, besides the memory of the bracelet. He kept me company on long, sleepless nights while I raised Simon, who went from being a crying baby to this bitter boy. But that night I lost everything. When Robert arrived, I was still sitting on the floor, in shock. He didn't bother to look at the state of the room. His cold eyes reflected the same contempt as his son's. With an impatient sigh, he leveled the accusation as if I were to blame. "Michelle, you messed up today." Even though I didn't move, he insisted in a reproachful tone. "Simon is only 7 years old. He's still a child. Why are you arguing with him?" As if the word child were enough to justify any atrocity. What about my dog, so innocent? Perhaps he noticed my sadness, because he softened his tone a little and said he would tell the secretary to buy another one just like it. After that, he made an impatient gesture with his hand, and the nanny put my dog's little body in a trash bag. Soon, the room was clean. Not a drop of blood, not a shard of glass. No sign that my dog had ever existed, or that I myself had ever existed. Taking care of Robert and his son for 7 years seemed to have left no mark. After his shower, Robert sat on the edge of the bed, handed me the hairdryer, and motioned for me to dry his hair. I obeyed mechanically, but he held my waist, pulling me close. "In 3 days, the Porter family's new perfume will be launched. You're coming with me." Each fragrance was created by him in honor of his late sister, which is why he never let me attend the events. We weren't married, and he always made a point of making that clear, even when the internet called me his mistress and he remained silent. The water from his hair dripped onto my clothes, cold as the words that would follow. I had been Robert's wife for 7 years, and even when I got pregnant with his child, His reaction was to take me to the best doctor, to have my tubes tied. In this life, I will only have Melissa as my wife and Simon as my son. Your job is to raise him. Don't think about anything else. The usual sequence of aggression and false caresses would repeat itself there, but for the first time, I refused. Mr. Robert, the 7-year contract is over. Tomorrow I'm leaving. He froze, his hand still on my waist, and looked at me coldly. When are you going to stop this drama? Simon is just a boy, and you are his mother. If you didn't raise him right, it's your fault, and I haven't even blamed you yet. The word mother coming from him made me feel nauseous. When I was taken into this family, it wasn't out of love, but out of convenience. He had fallen in love with my sister, but her parents didn't approve. They ran away and lived an intense romance, but when he had to take over the family empire, Robert returned. On the way, they had an accident. My sister, who was pregnant, died giving birth prematurely, so that he wouldn't be overwhelmed. I was sent to take care of the baby, even with the title of Mrs. Porter and 7 years as Simon's mother. I never had a marriage certificate. To the world, I was just the mistress. I lowered my gaze. Mr. Robert, you promised you would let me go. When Simon was ready for school, I was never your wife. Staying here tarnishes your reputation more than mine. For the first time, I saw a hint of softness on his face. Perhaps it was the idea of showing me off at the perfume launch. If you come with me, who will dare to say anything? I tried to interrupt before he could say more. I spent my childhood being called a bastard. I don't want the second half of my life to be marked by the word mistress. Simon already had a place at an international school. I didn't know how to raise a child. And in that house, there were enough nannies to take care of everything. They didn't need me. Robert pulled me and threw me on the bed. His gaze became harsh. Michelle, who do you think you are? You can't come and go from this house as you please. You're going to the launch with me. This is not a choice. The door slammed shut, making the wall shake. The canvas on the wall fell and shattered into pieces. I knelt on the floor and looked at the fragments. It wasn't just any painting. Robert had painted it, but the woman in it was my sister. The day before I was called to take care of Simon, Mrs. Wilson warned me. If it weren't for the tragic fate of my daughter and your resemblance to her, you, a nobody, would never have had this opportunity. She added, behave yourself in the Porter household. Take care of my grandson. Otherwise, don't expect mercy. She was right. During those 7 years, if my face hadn't resembled hers, Robert would never have painted me in his moments of rest. That canvas, now shattered, was one of the rare gestures of tenderness I had received since I could remember. The only time I felt anything like affection was when Robert painted me. Even so, 7 years were enough to show me that even those moments were illusions. The door suddenly opened. Simon entered, distraught, still wearing the tailor-made suit Robert had had made for me. His eyes were red, filled with a hatred that seemed to grow every day. You're a horrible woman, just as I thought. Do you really think you can replace my mother? That you're going to the launch event in my place? Only in your dreams. As he spoke, he grabbed a pair of scissors and began cutting the dress into pieces. When he was done, he stomped on the scraps, as if to make sure they were destroyed forever. I reached out to try to stop him, but he pushed me away forcefully and cut my arm deeply. Blood flowed, soaking my clothes. For a brief moment, I noticed the panic in his eyes, but he quickly regained his cold, determined tone. As long as you live in this house, I will make your life hell. Pressing my hand against the wound, I realized I had lost all hope. 7 years of dedication had earned me nothing but contempt and hostility from this father and son. I just asked him to stop and go to bed early. Then I turned and closed the door. I started packing my things, determined to leave. but before I could get out. Mrs. Wilson appeared. She was wearing designer clothes and sparkling jewelry, and when she saw my suitcase, she adopted an unexpectedly soft tone. "Michelle, after all, Simon is your nephew. Are you really going to abandon him? Think about it. Stay with the Porter family for us. If Robert gets married and has children, we'll be left with nothing." Deep down, she couldn't bear the thought of giving up the luxurious house and car Robert had given her. Before I could respond, I heard laughter in the background. Simon was running toward Rita and holding her hand affectionately. "Aunt Rita, I missed you so much." She smiled, caressed his face tenderly, and picked him up. "Really? Then why didn't you come to see me before?" Simon looked away from me with disdain and clung to her even more. "If I came to see you, Daddy would be sad. Besides, who would deal with that mean woman?" Seeing the proud expression on his face, I felt as if my heart were being torn apart. I remembered the times when Simon had a high fever, and I spent 3 days and 3 nights by his side in the hospital without sleeping. I remembered the day I tried to make porridge and fainted in the kitchen. Sparks set the curtains on fire, and I almost burned to death. Simon, at the time, ran out in a panic, crying so hard he could barely breathe. "Auntie, I can't live without you." How could I have imagined that this boy, who once hugged me so desperately, would now stab me with invisible knives with his words and contempt? Rita greeted me with a kind smile, but there was venom between the lines of everything she said. "Simon is just a child, Miss Michelle. Don't take it so seriously." How ironic. The boy I cared for so zealously now melted at every word spoken by a stranger. After they left, I stared at Mrs. Wilson. "Look at that. Simon doesn't need me. He has too many people around him to flatter him." Rita, who used to be just a waitress, had a face that reminded me a lot of my sister. That was enough to win. Over Robert and Simon, Robert even handed her the family perfume line and held her hand in front of everyone, as if they were a real family. Mrs. Wilson stared at me. "So that's it? You're leaving?" I replied firmly. "I don't have 7 more years to waste." She didn't let me finish. She raised her hand and slapped me hard. "You're just a bastard born to a scoundrel's mistress. You should thank me for not letting you die. My father deceived my mother by saying he was a single businessman. She, newly arrived from the countryside, believed him. When she found out he was already married, she was pregnant, she was humiliated, despised, and ended up throwing herself off a building. If it weren't for the fact that, legally, the Wilson family couldn't abandon me, I would have been discarded." When the second slap came, I held her arm in the air. "I spent 30 years annihilating myself for this family. I owe you nothing. I grew up being physically and verbally abused. Mrs. Wilson took out her frustrations on me. I never set foot in a school until I was 18. And for the last 7 years, I served as a tool for Robert to vent his frustrations. I gave Simon everything I could, and what did I get? My grandmother's jade bracelet broken, my dog dead, my tubes removed without my consent, and with them, the chance to be a mother. I did the best I could. I don't owe anyone anything anymore. The only person I feel sorry for is myself." Mrs. Wilson, left in a rage. When I turned around, I found Robert's restless gaze. He motioned for me to come closer, like someone calling a pet. I stood still. His face soon took on an impatient expression. "Michelle, be reasonable. If you leave the Porter family, you'll have nowhere to go. I've already asked them to buy you a better dog and a more expensive bracelet. If Simon is difficult to deal with, Rita can help you. Starting today, she'll be living with you." He looked at me as if he expected gratitude, as if I should accept everything with humility and continue to take care of him and his son, now alongside Rita. But I didn't want that anymore. I had no say in the matter. Rita appeared behind Robert. "I know you don't like me, Miss Michelle. I'd better go. After all, Someone with no status like me has no place looking after Simon. She looked like a martyr. She had barely taken 2 steps when Robert stopped her. Status isn't a problem. That's up to me. If you get pregnant, I can make you the new Mrs. Porter. He then grabbed Rita by the waist and kicked the mansion. Dr. Shutt, the nanny and butler dispersed, accustomed to this type of scene. Simon looked at me with superiority. Aunt Rita is sweet and kind. She deserves to be my mother. That hit me so hard it took my breath away. Do you really think that? Yes. You are a cruel woman. Don't think I don't know. You seduced my father and caused my mother's death. She bled to death because of you. One day, I will have my revenge. I looked down at the amulet around his neck. I sighed silently. Simon was born prematurely, fragile and in need of constant care. I was the one who took care of him every step of the way, every sleepless night. I even gave him the amulet my mother left me. But none of that mattered now. In 7 years, all my care had been erased by a few poisonous words from a stranger. I reached for the amulet, perhaps on impulse. Simon recoiled immediately, protecting it as if I were a threat. If you dare touch me, I'll ask Dad to kick you out, Simon threatened. But even so, I calmly removed the amulet from his neck. You're 7 years old now. Maybe you don't understand certain things now. But one day you will. It's my fault. For not raising you better, other people will take care of you in ways I can no longer. Between the 2 of us, we will probably never see each other again in this life. Under Simon's confused gaze, I picked up my suitcase and headed straight for the airport. The old Porter family mansion receded into the distance until it disappeared completely. I knew that after I left, Robert would find someone else to take my place beside Simon. But that was no longer my concern. After wasting 30 years of my life living for others, the time had finally come to live for myself. As I was about to board, I felt a strong hand pull my ticket. The cold voice that followed made my body tremble. Michelle, where do you think you're going? I turned slowly and faced Robert's angry face. His hard, unyielding expression created such a cold atmosphere around him that no one dared to approach him. But what caught my attention was not his gaze, but the red marks on his neck, hickeys that had never been there while we were together. In the 7 years I had been with him, he had never let me kiss his neck. He said only his sister could do that. Naively, I thought it was because of a deep, unhealthy love. But now it all made sense. He just didn't want me. I firmly pulled my arm away from his hand. Mr. Robert, my flight is about to leave. The coldness in his eyes increased. Stop making a scene. Come home with me. Home. That house was never mine. Since the death of my mother and grandmother, I no longer had a home. I lowered my gaze. You promised you'd let me go. To him, that sentence sounded like a joke. He suppressed his anger. What are you talking about? Come back with me now. Do you really think you'll be able to board? He looked at the boarding area and said with disdain, without my permission, that plane won't take off. The threat in his eyes was real. And as much as he had always belittled me, now he wanted me there just to feed his control. Anguish tightened my chest. I clenched my teeth. You're the one who needs to stop this nonsense. Even if you don't let me leave today, I'll leave tomorrow. Unless you break my legs, you can't stop me. You can control my body, but not what I carry inside. His expression hardened. If you insist, I don't mind incapacitating you. I knew he was capable of it. But at that moment, I had no desire to argue. I just wanted to leave. I took a deep breath, looked him in the eye, and said, Robert, don't cross the line. Perhaps my firmness hurt his pride. He didn't answer. He just grabbed my arm. The cut where Simon had wounded me the day before burned violently. The pain was so intense that I lost strength in my face. Robert was startled and, confused, asked, "What happened?" I wanted to roll up my sleeve to check, but the movement attracted curious glances. I tried to break free and, without thinking, slapped him. The impact reverberated through the lobby. Silence fell. Even the security guards were paralyzed. Within seconds, they formed a circle around us, ready to restrain me. But before they could touch me, Robert shouted. His eyes were filled with resentment. "Is this what you want? Are you going to abandon me?" His voice wasn't loud, but it echoed like thunder inside me. For 7 years, I had obeyed his every wish. I never opposed him. I never questioned him. Now, seeing my face change before him, his gaze seemed to waver for a moment, as if, for the first time, he felt something. "Michelle, are you sure you want to leave?" Even his secretary, who had always treated me coldly, tried to convince me. "Miss Michelle, don't be upset. You are the only recognized wife in this house. If you leave, there will be no turning back." In everyone's eyes, I should have been grateful for everything I had, for the status, for the security, for the fact that Robert had rescued me from poverty. But no one knew what it meant to live imprisoned in the Porter mansion. For me, that place was a dark, endless hole. Seeing my hesitation, the secretary reinforced. "Do you know how many women would give anything to be in your place? If you leave now, you'll make room for them. Miss Michelle, Mr. Robert has always treated you differently. Why insist on refusing?" Differently? Why insist? Wealth, power, prestige, all within reach. A man who seemed to be in love with me? How could anyone understand why I didn't accept it? No one wanted to know how I really lived. The sleepless nights, the hidden tears, my dog's blood staining my bedroom floor. It all stayed inside me, suffocating me like an invisible prison. I shook my head. "I'm sure. I'm leaving." Robert's face closed up completely. He never believed I would have the courage to stand up to him. I fixed my gaze on his. "I'm not a good mother. The way Simon turned out is a reflection of my failures. I wasn't a good owner either. My dog was with me for 10 years and I couldn't even give him a dignified death. I was certainly not a good wife. I am not capable of being what you demand. I can't pretend or ignore it. I have feelings. I exist. So please, let me go." He looked at me silently. His eyes darkened. Then he turned and left, leaving only one last sentence hanging in the air. "Michelle, you'll regret this." Before boarding, I removed the chip from my cell phone, broke it in half, and threw it away. From above, as the plane gained altitude, I watched the city shrink beneath the sea. Clouds. That was the place where I had stayed for 7 years, a prison disguised as a home. I sighed deeply. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was free of all chains. Everything connected to the Porter family had suffocated me for too long, leaving me unable to smile, breathe, or live. I had to measure every gesture, every word. I lived in fear of making a mistake and becoming a target of ridicule. But now, I could laugh or cry, and no one else would have control over it. I wandered aimlessly, from north to south, crossed deserts, reached the mountains of Kansas and the shores of Lake Erie. There, I opened a small tavern. Passers-by of all kinds came and went, each with their own story. I listened to their pains, their dreams. I met old people on the verge of death, and young people full of hope. Sitting at the counter, with popular melodies filling the air, the sadness inside me began to dissolve with the wind, until one day as I opened the tavern door as usual, I was so startled that I took a few steps back. Someone had fallen to the floor in front of me. He was unconscious but breathing. His pale face and cracked lips betrayed a high fever. I recognized the signs immediately. Years of caring for Simon had taught me to recognize this kind of situation. I called my neighbor to help carry him inside. I touched his forehead. Yes, he was burning up. I gave him some water, as I did with Simon on his worst days, and then called a doctor to begin treatment. When he woke up, he was staring blankly at the dry ground in the courtyard. The flower seeds beside him were scattered and mixed together in such a way that it was impossible to identify them. The brown ones are roses, the rest aren't even flowers. The voice sounded calm behind me. I turned and saw a handsome man, quite different from the serenity he conveyed while sleeping. His peach blossom eyes had a misty glow, as if hiding a secret, as if drawing those who gazed at them into a world apart. He smiled when he noticed my surprise and spoke kindly. "Miss Michelle, you've been misled." His name was Victor, handsome, discreetly dressed, polite. His tone was like a warm spring breeze, although he always maintained a certain emotional distance. My gaze involuntarily drifted to the expensive watch on his wrist, and I smiled to myself, after everything I had been through with Robert. Noticing this kind of detail had become an automatic reflex. I put the hoe aside and smiled. "How are you feeling now? You scared me that day. You collapsed at the door of my tavern as if your body couldn't take it anymore. Luckily, the doctor said it was just a bad case of the flu. You haven't eaten in 2 days. Would you like me to make something?" He nodded. "Sincerely, I'm starving. I'll accept your kindness, Michelle." I went to the kitchen and quickly prepared a simple plate of pasta. As he ate, Victor praised it enthusiastically. "This is as good as food from an award-winning chef, where..." "Did you learn to cook like this?" I swallowed hard. I learned all this because of Robert. He always came home late from social engagements with his stomach in knots, so I spent weeks searching for the right flavor, trying to please him, trying to ease his pain. In the end, he said that he would be happy to eat the pasta I made for him for the rest of his life. Under the soft light that night, he seemed sincere. But now I know it was just another empty phrase he threw out without thinking. I smiled and said, "If you liked it, I can make more." Victor declined with a gesture and asked if he could stay a while. Since I lived alone in that place, I saw no reason to refuse, and so he stayed. During the day, he helped in the garden, digging in the soil with a patience I didn't expect. At night, he would sometimes climb onto the small stage and sing soft songs that mingled with the scent of flowers. One afternoon, he appeared with a mischievous smile and sparkling eyes. "Michelle, look what I've prepared." He covered my eyes with one hand and led me to the patio. When I could see again, flowers covered the ground like a carpet, and on the table there was a cake and 2 glasses of wine. "What's all this?" I asked, surprised. He feigned indignation and tapped my forehead lightly. "Silly, it's your birthday." I was speechless. He didn't know, but my date of birth had been changed by Mrs. Wilson. I never knew for sure when I was born. It used to hurt me, but now, realizing that someone remembered me, I understood that the exact day didn't matter that much. We lay down on the lounge chairs, the sky full of stars, the ground covered with flowers. After a few glasses, Victor spoke about himself for the first time. "I ran away from home without telling anyone. I was tired of the fighting and greed. My family is destroying itself over money." He told me he had drunk too much and passed out because of a fever. He turned to me, and his eyes seemed to contain the entire universe. I shook my head, then nodded. He laughed and asked, "So were you scared or not?" "I was just a little scared," I replied. Victor reached out and touched my forehead. "You're strange. You frown all day long. It's like you're carrying something forgotten inside," he added in a lower voice. "Are you heartbroken? Or do you miss someone?" I smiled. That's all in the past. I've left it all behind. But as if fate were mocking me, the tavern door burst open. Victor and I turned at the same time. A tall man with a dark expression entered with heavy steps. "Robert." He lunged forward without thinking, grabbed my arm, and pulled me up from my chair. His eyes were wild. "Let go of her, Michelle. How dare you say you've forgotten me?" His voice was low but threatening. He towered over me, trying to dominate me as he always had. "Come back with me. Simon needs you." I took a deep breath and held his gaze. "Why should I?" "I'm not your property." Robert laughed contemptuously. "Not mine? Michelle, you spent 7 years under my roof." A crack. The slap echoed in the air. His head turned with the force of the blow. A red mark began to appear on his face. It was the second time I had hit him. He stood still, surprised. His eyes, between anger and pain, also showed sadness. But my anger was even greater. "You put me in this position, Robert. They forced me to take care of Simon. You gave me false hope. And then you took everything away from me. What right do you have to accuse me now?" My voice trembled. My face burned. "The past is behind us. I already left you. I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Stop insulting me." For the first time, Robert hesitated. He let go of my arm, took a step back, and tried to justify himself. Victor stood in front of me, protective. "Mr. Robert, this is not your place to act as you please." Robert looked at Victor's hand and narrowed his eyes. "And you, who do you think you are?" "I didn't want to involve anyone else. This is between us. Leave him out of it." Robert was silent for a moment, but his gaze betrayed his pain. "Who is he?" "A few months and you've already forgotten me." My blood boiled. "What does it matter how much time has passed? You have no right. You're not welcome here." Robert staggered a little, the color draining from his face. "How can you say that?" he muttered. His eyes shone with insane hope. "I'll make you change your mind. I won't give up." And he didn't give up. He stayed in the village. He showed up every day with flowers, gifts, pathetic attempts at reconciliation. I threw everything away. Nothing touched me anymore. The sadness on Robert's face was new, but it didn't move me. I sent him away from the tavern. However, he showed up the next day. No flowers, no pomp. He was dressed in simple clothes and asked for a job as a waiter. The proud Robert, waiting tables. In half an hour, he got into a fight with 4 customers. One of them, drunk, threw wine on his head. I thought he would explode, but he swallowed it. He came up to me and said, pretending to be lighthearted, "Michelle, see? I'll do anything for you." I just wanted him to leave. Victor proposed that we travel abroad. I accepted. I packed my bags, determined to disappear. But when I woke up the next day, I was on Robert's private plane. He stared at me with cold eyes as the aircraft took off. At that moment, everything made sense. He must have been monitoring my phone. How else would he know I was about to leave? I looked at Robert, between surprise and fury. "Are you crazy? Where are you taking me?" "I don't want to go with you." I raised my hand to hit him, but he held it firmly. His gaze was pure delirium. It almost scared me. "This is the 3rd time you've tried to hit me, Michelle. My patience is running out. You can only be by my side in this life. Forget about leaving." I tried to break free in vain. "Robert, there were never any feelings between us. This is all an illusion of yours." But he didn't let go of me. He pulled me closer and forced our eyes to meet. "No one takes what's mine. And as for Victor, who does he think he is to compete with me? His family may have a name, but his grandfather would never let him risk himself for you. Don't count on him to save you." With each word, his grip on my arm tightened. "Didn't you want to go abroad so badly? Well, let's go now." That threw me off. I already suspected that Victor wasn't an ordinary man, but during all the time we spent together, I never sensed any ill will from him. Robert, on the other hand, looked at me as if he wanted to possess me completely. His eyes drifted down to my lips, and without warning, he tried to kiss me. I bit his shoulder hard. Blood immediately flowed, but he didn't back down. "Michelle, you can hurt me as much as you want if it means you'll forgive me. Since the day you left, I realized I can't live without you anymore. When we get back, we'll get married. I'll be your real husband. And Simon understands that he was wrong. He's waiting for you." That confirmed what I already feared. Robert had completely lost his mind. A man who had spent years worshipping his sister's memory now wanted to make me his wife. Ironic, pathetic. I tried to push him away, but he pulled me back into his arms. For years, I thought he was just using me to relieve his emotions. I never imagined he could fall in love, but he fell in love too late. A broken mirror can't be put back together. My heart for him was dead. When we finally disembarked, I realized we weren't back in the city, but on a paradise island. Simon ran toward me. His face was filled with sincere sadness. He hugged me tightly. "Mom, don't leave me. I miss you. No one else is as good to me as you are. I regret it. I miss your pasta, your songs. I shouldn't have believed the others." I slowly pulled away. "Simon, I'm not your mother. I've done everything I could for you." I didn't want to fight with him, but I also couldn't just forget what they had done to me. "But Mom," his eyes filled with tears, "Dad misses you too. He stays in your room every day, staring into space. He even bought another puppy just like the one we had. Please come back with us." His words no longer had any impact. It was like watching a play. Robert only appreciated my presence after he lost me. I looked at the luxurious decorations of what looked like a wedding, but inside me there was no celebration. When Simon tried to insist, Robert gently pushed him away, wiping his tears. Then he looked at me with an insane gleam in his eyes. "Michelle, whether you like it or not, you're coming back. You have no choice." I turned to leave, but he grabbed me and took something out of his pocket. A ring. I recognized it immediately. It was the same one from our fake ceremony. The one he threw away right after the event, saying, "Don't get your hopes up. It was just a formality." Now, on his knees, he was offering me the same ring. "Michelle, marry me. I can give you everything." Before I could say anything, a voice came from behind me. "She doesn't want to." It was Victor, surrounded by bodyguards. He approached slowly. Each step he took made my heart beat faster. "Mr. Robert, do you really think you can just take her? My grandfather may disagree with me, but he won't stop me from fighting for the woman I love." Robert reached into his pocket and answered a call. His expression changed. He turned pale. His eyes pleaded. "Michelle, if you say you don't want to go with him, even if I have to leave the Porter family, I'll stay with you." I held Victor's hand and replied firmly, "I want to." Robert clenched his teeth. "I was the first one to meet you. So what? I never loved you." He lowered his eyes, defeated. "Then go. I won't come looking for you again." I turned away, still holding Victor's hand, afraid that Robert would change his mind. But it was Simon who surprised me. He ran up to me and raised his hand to hit me. I dodged and looked at Victor. "Do you like me?" "If I didn't, why would I have come to get you?" he replied with a smile. "From the first time I saw you, I knew I wanted to spend my life with you." The evening light streamed through the stained glass windows and illuminated his face. 7 years ago, when you showed up with me at that high society party, awkward, out of place, I admired your lightness. I was about to be swallowed up by family responsibilities. But your words showed me that the world was too big to be denied. You said simply that sometimes it's better to follow your heart. Because of that, I had the courage to stand up to my grandfather. And now, we've found each other again. This time, I won't let go of your hand. I smiled. I squeezed his hand tightly. This was the new life I wanted.